So next I'm going to put the netting on. This is like a birdcage style piece. A lot of the bridal pieces are done this style now because vintage is very back in, but also a lot of mother of the brides and guests at weddings, they just like to have the little bit of netting scooped around. So I've just cut off 1 metre of this netting and have a nice Diamante detailing on top of it. So firstly, what we need to decide is how long you want your netting to be. Now, if you're wearing glasses or if netting annoys you, then be very aware that when the netting's on you, that if you're taking your glasses on or off, or on the day of the wedding, if you shed a few tears, that it could get stuck inside here. So be very conscious of how long you want your netting to be. So there's 3 lengths you can go with your netting. You can bring it right down over your mouth, as in this long. You can go your next length, which would be to the nose and to the brow across, so you're running just straight across like this, which would be this length. Or you can go shorter if it's going to be annoying you and just scoop it just above the eyebrow so that it's not sitting too long. So once you decide on the length that you want it to go, you just pick your length. So I'm going to bring it to her nose and across to her brow. So then you just pre-cut it along before you've actually stitched anything. So you just follow your dotted line the whole way along where you want it to be. You can use all waste of netting afterwards and put little gathered pieces into it if you wanted to, so don't feel that you're going to be wasting much. Right, so I just picked the length of the netting. It's going to be just above her brow so it doesn't annoy her. So we're going to sit it like this the entire way around. So you just get your needle and thread ready again. And I'm going to sit down to the start. And you don't put the needle in your mouth like that. Just say that's a forcing habit, sorry. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to gather up the netting. So I'm going to keep the scalloped edge, the ending, so that that's a nice finish that's going to sit around her piece. So all I'm going to do is on the piece where I've cut to each square, I'm just going to stitch all of them together and just basically gather them in. It doesn't have to be perfect because usually what's happening is on top of the netting something's going to cover it up, so it'll be fine. When you're gathering, try to make sure that your gathers are going outwards rather than inwards, because if your gathers, you're puckering it inwards, it's all going to pucker in towards your face and it's only going to annoy you more. So you can see I've just kind of fanned it and just gathered it, and I've left 2 longer lengths at the end. They're the pieces that I'm going to secure on the sides afterwards. So all I do then is just bring a stitch in. Now you find with the netting that's probably the most finicky part to do when you're making a headpiece, just because you really want it to sit right. You don't want that to be annoying you on the day that you're wearing it, because it'll annoy you for the entire day. Another thing as well is if you leave it quite loose, when you have your hairstyle done and your piece put in on the day, you can just use little hair grips to secure it around in your hair and the position you want it to sit. So I've just lightly gathered that now, and I'm just going to sit that into the top. Now at the moment it's sitting quite full, but that'll all shape in now in a minute. So then you're just going to bring your stitch straight through, and just make sure you don't hit off your hairband, because you won't find it very difficult to get the needle through.
So you kind of gather from the middle?
Gather from the middle and just leave 2 lengths on either side. Yeah. All the pieces that I'm using today are all available here in Vibes and Scribes. Sometimes it's nice as well if you want to incorporate some of your own, maybe jewellery or brooches can be very nice on this style as well. With these, once you invest in a base, you can always chop and change it afterwards. You could take the netting off and just do some beading on top, or you could lengthen your netting or shorten your netting or remove it entirely. If you go as well with a neutral coloured base, you can always then accessorise it with different feathers into it. So for example, if you went with this colour in a nude shoe and you were wearing maybe or a cream heel, and then after that you decided to go to a wedding and incorporate with a green colour, you could always just put some green feathers in, and then you could take them out afterwards and then put another colour in for another time. So you can always chop and change your piece.
When you're sewing that down, are you sewing it around the band?
No, I'm on one side of the band and usually to the back side of it. Yeah, but you can manoeuvre your band, you can pull your hairband, it's not secured entirely, so you can lift it to the side so that you can get your stitching in and it'll still go back to the position it was meant to be in. Okay. Now, once the netting is secured on top, your decision then is how full you want it to be around the sides. So, you can bring your netting as well, you can flip it over like the way I'm doing now, to whichever position you want it to sit. So I'm going to do this to the right of her so you can see it. I'll just move it onto this side. So you can see your netting now is taking shape. So now what you need to do is secure your back. Now you can do 2 things with it. You can bring it to the point and to the ends, or you can bring it all into the centre. I'm going to bring it all into the centre today. and scoop it around like this so that it sits in. Once your pieces go on top, that's when your netting then starts to come down and it'll take proper shape where it'll sit down properly as it's meant to the entire way around. But again, the netting really is the most tricky part to get right. I've just secured now one side of it, just by bringing it into the centre as well. Now afterwards what we can do is, if you feel it's sitting too high, you can put a little stitch just there just to hold it into the position you want it to be. So I'm going to do the same as well now for the bottom half. Now so you can see, I've brought the netting so that it's starting to create a shape here that is opening up the entire way around. So all you need to do then is just make sure that your netting then is secured down by sitting downwards. So that's going to happen then when we bring our pieces on top. So the look that we're creating is so that it comes around and sits something like this.